You do not own your home. You rent it from the bank through a mortgage, and soon you will rent it from BlackRock through a lease you never signed. By 2030, institutional investors will control more residential units in America than all individual landlords combined. This is not a prediction. This is a purchasing schedule already in motion. Right now, as you watch this, algorithms are scanning your neighborhood, calculating the exact price at which your neighbor will sell, and preparing the bid that beats yours by 3%. The game is already over. You just don't know you lost yet. This is not about home ownership dying. This is about home ownership being transferred. The houses are not disappearing, they are being consolidated. And the entity doing the consolidating is not a government. It is a financial machine designed to convert your rent into shareholder dividends forever. The plan is simple. Buy every house you cannot afford, rent it back to you at a price that keeps you exactly one emergency away from eviction. Then repeat until no alternative exists. They call this increasing market efficiency. The real term is economic feudalism. Here is what makes this different from every housing crisis you have been taught about. In past crashes, homes were foreclosed and sold to new owners. The ownership dispersed. This time, the foreclosures are being purchased in bulk by funds with infinite liquidity and 20-year horizons. When you lose your house in this cycle, it does not go to another family. It goes into a portfolio. And portfolios do not sell. They accumulate. The silent phase is when the trap is being built around you and you mistake the construction for normal market activity. You are in the silent phase right now. Every sold above asking sign in your neighborhood is not a win for some family. It is a data point in an acquisition map. Every newly built subdivision that gets purchased in full before a single unit is listed is not a development boom. It is vertical integration. The system is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. And the design is to make you a tenant for life. Let me show you how close you are to the edge. If you are currently renting, you are already inside the system. If you own a home, but carry a mortgage above 70% loan to value, you are one medical bill away from being inside the system. If you're saving for a down payment while home prices rise faster than your income, you're being priced into the system in real time. The trap does not snap shut. It tightens gradually until movement becomes impossible. Now let me take you back 60 years, not to teach history, but to show you the blueprint. In the 1960s, corporate farming began consolidating American agricultural land. Small family farms were not banned. They were simply outbid, outfinanced, and outoperated until selling became the only rational choice. Today, 4 companies control over 80% of the beef market. The transition took 40 years. It was not violent, it was financial. The same playbook is now running on your housing. In the 1980s, private equity discovered the leverage buyout. The model was brutally simple. Borrow billions at low interest rates. Buy a company. Load that company with the debt you used to buy it. Extract maximum cash flow. Let the company collapse or sell it before the debt matters. This was not illegal. It was innovation. The innovation taught Wall Street a lesson. You do not need to create value. You only need to control the asset long enough to extract value. Housing is now that asset. In the 2010s, after the foreclosure wave, a new financial product appeared. The single-family rental securitization. This allowed investment funds to buy thousands of foreclosed homes, rent them out, and package the rental income into bonds sold to pension funds and sovereign wealth funds. For the first time, Wall Street could scale landlording, like they scaled subprime mortgages. The difference is subprime collapsed. This model is designed never to collapse because it does not depend on asset prices rising. It depends on you always needing shelter. This brings us to stage 1. Acquire below replacement cost. Between 2008 and 2014, BlackRock, Blackstone, and a network of private equity funds purchased over 200,000 foreclosed homes across Sunbelt cities. They paid cash. They closed in days. Individual buyers could not compete. The homes were not listed on the market. They were sold in bulk through auction platforms most people did not know existed. This was not a conspiracy. This was a foreclosure clearance sale. And institutional investors were the only buyers with enough capital to play. Stage 2. Normalize rent inflation. Once a fund owns enough homes in a region, it does not compete on price. It sets the price. When all the landlords are actually one landlord operating through different subsidiary names, rent does not reflect supply and demand. It reflects profit targets. Between 2012 and 2020, rents in institutional-owned neighborhoods rose 18% faster than in comparable neighborhoods with fragmented ownership. This was not because of local economics. It was because of portfolio optimization. Stage 3. Lock out new buyers. Here is the mechanism. Institutional investors do not need mortgage approval. They pay cash. They close in 7 days. You need a mortgage. You need an appraisal. You need 45 days to close. In a competitive market, the seller picks the sure thing. The sure thing is always the fund. In 2021, investors bought 1 in 4 single-family homes sold in America. In some cities, that number reached 50%. You are not losing because you are not trying hard enough. You are losing because you are not playing the same game. Stage 4. Eliminate alternative supply. New construction is supposed to solve housing shortages, but institutional investors have started buying entire subdivisions directly from builders before the homes are ever listed. In Phoenix, in Charlotte, in Atlanta, entire neighborhoods are being born as rentals. The buyers are not families, they are funds. The builders do not care. A sale is a sale. But for you, this means the new supply you were counting on to lower prices is being swallowed before it reaches the market. The escape hatch is being welded shut. Stage 5. Automate rent extraction. This is where technology becomes the enforcement layer. Institutional landlords use algorithmic rent pricing software. It analyzes millions of data points, vacancy rates, employment levels, competitor pricing, and sets your rent at the maximum you can pay without moving. Not the maximum the market will bear, the maximum you will bear. The software knows when your lease ends. It knows when rents spike in moving season. It knows you have a kid in school. It prices your renewal accordingly. This is not price gouging. This is yield optimization. Stage 6. Financialize the tenant. The final stage is when your rental payment becomes a bond payment to an investor in Seoul or Frankfurt who has never seen your street. Your rent is packaged with 50,000 other rents into a security called a single family rental bond. That bond is rated by Moody's. It is traded on secondary markets. Your housing is now a financial instrument. When you pay rent, you are not paying a landlord. You are paying a coupon to a bondholder. The landlord is just the collection agent. This is not exploitation. This is asset-backed securitization. The fact that the asset is your home is incidental to the structure. You are in stage 4 right now. Some neighborhoods are in stage 5. A few are already in stage 6. The progression is not hypothetical. It is documented in investor earnings calls, in securitization prospectuses, in county deed records. The information is public. It is just not publicized. Now let me show you the math that makes this permanent. A single family rental fund targets a 10% annual return. Your rent is the revenue. Maintenance, property tax, insurance, and management fees are the costs. The difference is the profit. To hit 10% return, they need rent to cover costs plus yield. As costs rise, rent must rise, but here is the trap. They do not need home prices to go up. They need rents to stay stable. A fund that buys a house for $300,000 and rents it for $2,000 a month generates $24,000 a year. After costs, maybe $12,000 is profit. That is a 4% yield. Leverage it at 3-to-1 with cheap debt, and the equity return jumps to 12%. The model works even if the home price never increases. This is why they do not sell. Selling realizes a gain once. Renting realizes a gain forever. Here is what that means for you. In the old model, you could wait for a crash, buy low, and build equity. In this model, crashes are buying opportunities for funds with infinite capital. Prices drop, they buy more, and when prices recover, they do not sell. They refinance and buy again. You are not waiting for a crash to get in. You are waiting for a crash that lets them lock you out permanently. The incentive structure is now inverted. In the past, high home ownership rates were a policy goal because they created stable communities. Now, high rental rates are a financial product because they create predictable cash flows. Your local government wants affordable housing. Wall Street wants occupancy rates above 95% and rent growth above inflation. One of these groups has more money than the other. Guess which one wins? This is not a conspiracy. This is a business model. BlackRock is not hiding the plan. It is in their investor presentations. They describe single-family rentals as a $40 trillion asset class that is underpenetrated and ripe for institutionalization. Underpenetrated means most homes are still owned by individuals. Institutionalization means transferring them to funds. They are not saying this in secret. They are saying this to shareholders as a growth opportunity. Let me show you what this looks like on the ground. In 2018, a fund called Invitation Homes owned 80,000 rental houses across America. By 2023, they owned 85,000. The growth is slow, steady, and irreversible. They are not flipping. They are holding. Their average tenant stays 3 years. When the tenant leaves, the next tenant pays 8% more. The house never goes back on the market. It just cycles through tenants at higher rents forever. Multiply that by 100 funds and you see the future. Here is the tell. When BlackRock or Blackstone describes their rental strategy, they use the phrase build to rent. This means buying land, building subdivisions, and renting every unit from day one. No individual sales, no home ownership. Just rentals from inception. Several build-to-rent communities are already operating in Texas, Arizona, and Florida. They are clean. They are modern. They have amenities, and you will never own them. You will pay rent until you leave. Then someone else will pay rent. The land appreciates. The fund profits. You get nothing. This is where the promise of homeownership turns into a subscription. The American dream was you work, you save, you buy, you build equity, you retire with an asset. The new model is you work, you rent, you save nothing. You retire into a cheaper rental or move in with family. Ownership was the wealth building mechanism for the middle class. Renting is a wealth transfer mechanism to the investor class. The switch is not accidental. It is mathematical. Now let me show you the survival payoff. First rule, stop treating home ownership as the only path to stability. The system is designed to make you chase it until you are financially ruined. If the market is pricing you out, stop playing. Rent strategically. Lock long-term leases. Bank the difference. Build liquid capital. Equity in a house you cannot afford is not wealth. It is risk. Second rule, if you are already in the market, understand your position. If you bought in the last 3 years at a high price with a low down payment, you are not a homeowner. You are a leveraged renter paying the bank instead of a landlord. Do not assume prices will rise enough to save you. Plan for prices to stay flat and position accordingly. Refinance if possible. Build an emergency fund that covers 6 months of payments. The system depends on you being one disaster away from default. Third rule, recognize the real cost of location. Institutional investors concentrate in growth markets with job growth and population inflows. If you are competing in Phoenix, Austin, Charlotte, Tampa, you are bidding against funds with billion-dollar war chests. Move to secondary markets where cash buyers are fewer. You will sacrifice some career upside, but you will gain optionality. Optionality is the only leverage you have left. The broader point is this. You are not failing to buy a home because you are not working hard enough. You are failing because the market is being restructured beneath you in real time. The restructuring is not illegal. It is not even unethical by the rules of modern finance. It is simply a shift in who owns the assets and who pays to use them. The shift benefits capital. It does not benefit labor. And unless you own capital, you are labor. The final warning is simple. The silent phase ends when the majority realizes they have been priced out permanently. At that point, political pressure might build for reform. But reform takes years. Funds move in quarters. By the time legislation passes, the ownership structure will be locked in. The homes will be in portfolios. The portfolios will be securitized. The securities will be owned by pension funds and retirement accounts. At that point, unwinding the system means collapsing the retirements of millions of people. No politician will do that. The trap will be permanent. If this opened your eyes to the cage you are living in, subscribe. Because in the next video, we dismantle the rest of the illusion.